national championship. So great pleasure to welcome back to LSU, Terry Rooney.
Thank you very much. It's great to be back. First of all, I want to say thanks so much for Coach Johnson to allow me the opportunity to be back in this role. It is something that Coach and I have talked for the last few years at different times about trying to find a scenario or different potential opportunities, and I can tell you I was all in, ready to go at any time, and for this to happen right now is extremely exciting. So honored to be back, and also the chance to work alongside this amazing coaching staff and support staff that we have. Certainly coming off a national championship, but I know that this is what LSU is about. It's about being the best. And this, even being here in the limited time that I have in the last few weeks, this staff that Coach Johnson has put together, coaches, support staff, everybody, is the best of the best. And you sit there as part of that staff, and it's kind of, I call it the sponge effect. Soak it in, and you're learning too, and let it out when you need to. And I'm trying to do as much of that as I can. So it's an honor to be around all of these guys and be back. I told several people, I said, it's amazing. Bill said 15 years. I can tell you this, it does not seem like it. And I tell people I was only here for 2 years, but honestly, it seems like I was here for 10 years in a very positive way. And the other day we were around Coach and several alums, and I was trying to get my arms wrapped around, why is that? After 2 years, truly, it seemed like I was here for 10. And it's very easy. It's about the people. It's absolutely about the people, not just the players in the program, the coaches, the administration, Baton Rouge, the community. And obviously, at that time, back then, it was a special turnaround, so to speak, in what we did in a relatively short amount of time. And I think those bonds and those relationships, as you hope as a coach, is something that'll be with you forever. Because as a coach, although I'm not in a coaching role right now, I think it's irrelevant no matter what role you're in collegiate athletics. You should be in coaching for one reason, and that's the impact of lives of young kids. And when you're impacting their lives, there's so many different ways of doing it. And I feel like in those 2 years that I was here, hopefully made an impact on them. They certainly made it on me. So the opportunity to come back here and work alongside this coaching staff and for Coach Johnson is something that I can tell you what, I wake up every single morning absolutely excited and ready to go and help to continue to do what I can to recruit many of the best players in the entire country to come to LSU, Matt. And so very excited to be here. Glad to answer any questions.
Coach Riley with the Advertiser. Coach, did you have any sort of conversation with Coach Maneri when it came to this position, and how did that sort of dynamic work out when it came to coming back?
Obviously, I did talk to Coach Maneri. I did not talk to him until after I accepted the position, to be honest with you. It took a little while, but I will tell you this. Coach Maneri, I can sit here and tell you, I'm proud to say, is my mentor. Without any question. I certainly would not be in the position I am right now or the positions I've had the opportunity to be in over my career without his mentorship. There's no question. Certainly, as everybody knows, a great coach, a great person, and took me really, took me under his wing in many ways and learned so much from him, not just as a coach, how to run a program, how to run a coach, but how to treat people. And I can tell you, one of the things that you learn as you continue to move on, and I've seen it every single day, I think in my 3 to 4 weeks, being here at LSU with Coach Johnson, and he and I had an opportunity to be in California together for really about a week and a half. We were out recruiting, and I was looking forward to that, to be honest with you. When I accepted the job here, and Coach Johnson told me about what our schedule was going to be, the chance to be with Jay for about 2 weeks out there and talk about players and get a feel of everything was fantastic. But my point being is this: the one thing that I've learned, I've always seen it from the outside of coaching and recruiting against Coach, but now that I'm here, and it's the same thing that I've heard from Coach Burtman, the same thing I experienced, for 5 years with Coach Maneri, and the same thing I've seen in the last month with Coach Johnson, is it's all about the players. It's all about the players. That every single decision I know that we will make as a staff collectively coming from Coach Johnson, it's all about the players. It's what can we do to put them in a situation to be as successful as they can be, number one, and number two, allow them to have the best possible experience they can have at LSU, both on and off the field, right? So they can fulfill their two main goals baseball-wise is hopefully put ourselves in position, put them in position to win another national championship, number one, and number two, develop to be the best possible player they can be, and hopefully reach the major leagues. So again, proud of my relationship with Coach Mary, great friend, great person, great mentor, and again, to be a part of that tradition is an honor.
Yeah, man, the advocate. I was first wondering if you could elaborate maybe on your history with Coach Johnson, and then also what you like about being in this director of recruiting role.
Yeah, our history goes. I was thinking about it a while ago. Coach and I have, from a recruiting standpoint, just really throughout the years, we went against each other on a few occasions, but I think really from afar, and I don't want to speak for Coach, but certainly for myself, the level of respect is at the highest level. And when I tell you that I couldn't wait to work for him, he can probably tell you a few more of the stories in the text messages that I sent this guy. But I was adamant. I mean, honestly, the opportunity to work for Coach was like I didn't treat it as recruiting, but I think he knew how sincere I was in helping him do what he can, to continue to build this program. And so point being is that we really started out on the recruiting standpoint from when he was at the University of San Diego and certainly did what he did there. I think at that time it was similar. He was at San Diego. I think then I was at Notre Dame and LSU, and we always kind of crossed paths. And I think it really probably took an even bigger turn when Coach was at the University of Arizona and I was at the University of Houston. We actually played 2 series against each other out there. And I think after that, it was a little bit more of a heightened awareness, I think, of what each other did. And I think our relationship was really kind of built on there. But from afar, I can tell you certainly the level of respect that I had from a recruiting standpoint, from a program building standpoint, even when he was an assistant coach, was there. And I just knew, although we didn't know each other tremendously at that time, I just felt that there was something between us, a lot of similarities, in what we do. My wife actually says that too. She says, I've never seen you speak, as in the way, even before you hired me, as you did with Coach Johnson. I just feel like there's so similarities, I think, in the way that we look to attack the day, so to speak. So from that end.
Hey, Coach John Pusey, WAPT, very, very cool to have you back.
Thank you.
When you were a coach here, your players in 07 and 08 described you as a relentless worker, recruiter, and kind of what you just alluded to is how people describe Jay. So do you feel this is a kind of perfect working partnership?
I really do. I really do. I believe it. And although and I appreciate you saying that, and I know it's somewhat cliche to say, but I really don't view it as work. I mean, really, it's like we all talk about, we're very fortunate to love what we do, and I do love it, I will say to get back to this level, which is the highest level of college baseball, the best program in college baseball, is something that I've been trying to do, but also something that I believe I was meant to do, to be quite honest. I know that recruiting has changed, so to speak, and then the dynamics of recruiting have changed. I mean, as much as within the last year or two. Thus, I think it's one of the reasons that Jay's created this position with the NIL, the transfer portal, so many different variables going into it. From that end. But yes, I think that my experience, along with I think some of the personality traits per se that you might talk about, I think it makes a great match, and hoping I'll continue moving forward.
From in afar, before you took this position, what do you think made Jay an effective recruiter?
Relentless, number one. Number one, I'll tell you this, it's 2 things. Certainly, and from afar of competing against him. And we did really, as recently as when I was at the University of Houston in Arizona and some junior college kids, certainly the relentlessness, the intensity, but it comes down to this, and Coach is the best at this. He's the best head coach in the country. He's the best recruiter in the country. And I sit here and I can tell you that without any hesitation on both fronts, that he's the best at both. And it's about relationships, and it's about the people. And having witnessed that firsthand now for the last 3 to 4 weeks, it's evident that it's about the people, it's about the kids, and it's about the relationships. And I think in recruiting, you look at it, recruiting, some people view it as selling. Selling. I don't think it's selling. I think you're trying to inform them this is what we are, and let's hope it's a great fit. And when you're trying to inform people on LSU, the history speaks for itself, but it still comes down to relationships, simply because of the unbelievable history of this program, the greatest program in the history of college baseball, and what Coach Burtman built. Recruits aren't just going to show up here, just because of that. And I tell people all the time, they're not going to show up here because of somebody's effervescent personality. It's not going to be that. There's more to it. There's a lot more that goes into that. So you have to have knowledge of what you're trying to recruit them to, which I feel like I have, not just from the past, but currently. And then you need to have that relationship for them to understand, can I achieve all my goals here of winning another national championship? 1, of 2, putting myself in a position to be a great professional player. And then 3, it's about the people. And I know that's the number one thing that Coach talks about within our program, that it's always going to be about the players.
Hey Terry, Glenn Wesco, 247. Can you just talk about what the recruiting duties look like in terms of divvying them up with Coach Jordan? I know that he's a big part of the recruiting process as well as Coach Johnson and everyone on staff. What does that look like for you in terms of development?
No question. As I alluded to it prior, the chance to certainly work with Coach Johnson and our staff, as I said, and Coach Jordan, I will tell you, the chance to work with him and he and I will tell you, it's a nonstop, continuous text message, phone calls. I was going until about 12:30 last night, he and I going back and forth. He is so many of the qualities and attributes that I spoke about with Coach Johnson from a recruiting standpoint. Boy, Coach Jordan has every single one of them. And and history shows that, you are who you are and what he has done throughout his career, the best of the best. The best assistant coach recruiter in college baseball, what he has done, not just in his time here at LSU, but what he did at Duke, Appalachian State, and all of this stuff. So, I think really my job is to assist wherever I can, in any dynamic that I can do. There's no job, so to speak, no task that I'm not willing to do. My job is to assist all of these guys in any area that I can, and that's really what we're doing with Coach Jordan. So I think it's to be a little bit of everything, right? It's evaluation, number one. It's recruitment. It's all of those areas. So, and I think the positive is this, and I think Coach will talk, could probably touch base a little bit more on it. The position, because it's new, Coach has created it, and we're just moving into it, somewhat fluid, meaning that I think there's some different variables that can happen as we're trying to figure it out. As a matter of fact, we were talking about this morning, about 8 o'clock this morning, some of the things that we're trying to accomplish, number one, but how do we do that? So it's a little bit of a combination. But yes, to work with Coach Jordan in his recruiting prowess and what he's done, very honored to do it.
Hey Terry, Matt Moscone, ESPN Baton Rouge. A little bit along with Glenn was saying, what were the conversations like with you and Jay about, because this is a new position that's been created, what did it look like? And also, this place physically wasn't here last time you were here. Thoughts on the facilities?
The facilities are incredible. I saw Coach over there, Mr. Pontiff, and not to go too far deep into it, but you're right. My last year here was the last game ever played. In the old Alex Box, Game 3 of the Super Regional, still probably the greatest experience I've ever had in collegiate athletics. I think about it all the time. I think 3 back-to-back home runs in the bottom of the first, and I remember I just kept sitting there. I said, man, we just put up some zeros. Just put up some zeros. I remember in my mind doing that. But certainly that was an awesome opportunity. We actually came back here, ironically enough, the very next year when I left LSU to accept the head job at UCF. We came back here and played the very next year. And total just irony of the situation. Meaning, because scheduling is done in college baseball well in advance, kind of like probably football and basketball if it's that far out, but the weekend series are done 2 or 3 years in advance. And I remember Coach Maneri and I were saying, let's just cancel. We don't need to play. And of course, I'm the young, let's go. Yeah, we're playing, And it was not good. It was not the advantage Tigers that weekend, I can tell you that. But I also remember this is kind of great story, Matt. I also remember at that time, and it shows you what LSU and how it's viewed even on the outside. I remember I told my athletic director who just hired me that year, I told him, I said, I'm going to be the least low-maintenance coach you'll ever have. So if I come to you and I ask you for something, it's going to be important. So I'll never be in your office. So I remember I walked in there right around Christmas. And I looked at him and I said, hey, I have my first request. And he said, all right, sit down. What's that? I hadn't asked him for anything. I said, I want you to come when we go to LSU. I said, I want you to come on the trip because I want you to see what it's about. So I want you to see what college baseball is about. I want you to see what the best of the best is. And he saw it that weekend, So I saw it firsthand from that end. But you're right, the facilities are it. Everything is here. As everybody knows, everything is here for our players and this team, as shown last year with what Coach Johnson did, not only for the program to be the best it can be, but for the players to be. And I know there's a difference, it goes together, but a team and a program. Every single year, a team has the opportunity to be the best, and that's why this program is sustained, without any question.
Thanks, Terry.
Great, appreciate it.